Thank you so much, Doc, and thanks all of you. We do have these deep ties to the university, and I am a big fan of all that's happening here, and always have been, married into it, sending my own children here, and we celebrate with all of you this great achievement today. Congratulations to all the graduates. The purpose of a commencement address, of course, is to try to give you some sort of kernel of wisdom, some sort of timeless advice. And a couple days ago, I was looking up what were regarded as the best commencement speeches of all time. And believe it or not, people keep tabs of this. Town and Country magazine published a compilation of what they determined were the best ones a couple of years ago. It's quite a list of collective wisdom. They included Winston Churchill at the Harrow School in 1941. This is his famous speech where he said, "Never, never, never, never quit, except to convictions of honor and good sense," he said. They included John F. Kennedy's address at the American University in 1963, where he urged the graduates to work for world peace and to believe that that's possible. They included Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s speech at Oberlin College in 1965, and he said, "Remember that all mankind is tied together in a single garment of destiny." Nora Ephron was included. She spoke at the Women's Wellesley College in 1996, and she encouraged the ladies to be the heroine of their own lives and not the victims. Bono, U2, Bono spoke at the University of Pennsylvania. He made the list, 2004. He said, listen to this, he said, "The world is waiting for all of you to hammer it into shape." That's what this degree of yours is, a blunt instrument. So go forth and build something with it. Steve Jobs at Stanford University, 2005, said, "Stay hungry because your time is limited." J.K. Rowley at Harvard, 2008, said, "Relish adversity and be willing to fail." Jeff Bezos at Princeton, 2010, said, "Build yourself a great story." And who hasn't seen that famous clip online of Admiral William McRaven, UT Austin? A couple of years back, he famously preached the value of making your bed. Remember, y'all seen that video? Because he said if you don't do the little things well and right, then you won't do the big things right. Now listen, I agree with all of that advice. That's pretty good stuff, and I'm sure that you would as well. But what I wanted to suggest to you all today is something even more fundamental, more necessary, I think, than all of that. On the floor of the House of Representatives on Thursday afternoon, I asked my dear friend and colleague, Congresswoman Julia Letlow, what the theme of her speech would be this morning. She spoke at the earlier exercise, and she said, "I think I'm going to entitle it Choose Joy." I said, "I love that. It's a perfect theme, and it'll tie in very nicely with what I was going to talk about." She said, "What's that?" I said, "I was going to talk about choosing and pursuing truth." Because as it turns out, choosing joy and pursuing truth are critically important to every single one of us today. Especially because it seems that fewer people are doing so than ever before. Now, you all are graduating. There's no way to candy coat this, okay? You know the reality. You're graduating in an unprecedented time in our history, in a time of tremendous challenge. We all know that. We're living in what my friend, the best-selling author, Dr. Os Guinness, writes and talks about. He says it's a civilizational moment. This is his definition. Listen. He said, "This is a time of fateful decision when a civilization loses its critical connection with its foundational principles. And one or two things is either going to happen. It's either going to renew itself, or it's going to suffer ultimate decline and be replaced." So in a moment like this, in a civilizational moment, truth has never been more important than it is today, because most of the world that you're going to navigate here in the next year or two or three and the years ahead no longer acknowledges truth at all. See, Western civilization, the Western world, and even the extraordinary country that we have all inherited is gradually surrendering to postmodernism. That's a fancy word, I'm sure you all know it, but as the late Chuck Colson summarized it, a postmodern culture, listen to this, rejects any notion of a universal overarching truth. And when that's the case, there is no idea, and no idea is ultimately worth our allegiance, and nothing then is really worth living for or dying for. That's a pretty sad reality. This explains in large measure why Americans today are experiencing record high rates of depression and anxiety and a sense of hopelessness. And we see increasing violence at every turn and cultural and political polarization. Faith in our institutions is at an all-time low at the same time that crime is at all-time highs. And I hear from constituents and friends every day who express their concerns that things seem to be in some way unraveling. Several months back, I clipped a copy of the Washington Times article that had this ominous headline. It said, "New poll, most Americans say truth is subjective and there's no absolute right or wrong." Turns out that 54% of Americans right now embrace the postmodern idea that all truth is subjective and there's no moral absolutes. And so for the first time in history, we've got to recognize the world that you're about to navigate, this is the default position. Most people now believe there's no kind of objective truth. They don't believe that it's based on external standards or a higher authority. Most people now believe that they themselves are the standard for what is determinant of truth. And the implications of this are huge, right? More people are willing to lie if it's in their interests. Relationships are complicated. It's hard if you don't have trust that's eroded. This increased skepticism about people's truthfulness in relationships makes long-time commitments like marriage more difficult for more Americans. One of the surveyors said it this way. He said, it tears apart society by making us, in essence, a bunch of savages who look out for ourselves without turning to any higher principles to solve disagreements. And it points us in the right direction or to give us any sense of moral purpose. Increasingly, people are just choosing to ignore the law, and they feel no remorse about it. In the midst of all that, you guys are coming onto the scene. You've got your degrees now, a valuable degree, and you have all the wisdom and the promise and the responsibility that comes along with it. Bono would tell you, okay, he's the coolest commencement speaker ever, right? He would tell you that you should use your blunt instrument to go hammer the world into shape and build something valuable with it, right? I agree with that, but look, here's my admonition to you. It's very simple. Let's use this degree and all this wisdom and this experience that you've gotten now for something that may be the most decisive purpose of all. And that is to help us reverse the corrosion of our culture and help revive and keep our beleaguered republic. It is difficult for us to build anything, like Bono says, if the foundations are crumbling. Look, we have to recognize that deception today is rampant. Evil is real, and evil is throughout the world. But so is truth and beauty and hope and joy, like Julia said. Those are the things that we have to pursue. It's not about our success. It's not about our status. It's not about monetary rewards. All those things will come to you. But that's not what you're supposed to seek and embrace. What we're supposed to seek, first and foremost, is truth. Nearly 247 years ago, the American Revolution acknowledged the principle truth that led to the foundation of our new nation and made us the freest, most prosperous, most powerful country in history. The great British philosopher, G.K. Chesterton said one time, America is the only nation in the world that is founded upon a creed. And he said the creed is listed with theological lucidity in the Declaration of Independence, our nation's birth certificate. What is the creed? We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. They are endowed by their Creator with certain and inalienable rights. That among those, the rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. My friends, the reason that we have endured so many years as the shining city on a hill, as the beacon of freedom, as the great global superpower, is because our founders and the generations that followed them boldly proclaim that there are self-evident truths, that we are all created equally, and that our benevolent Creator God gives us those cherished rights. They understood that all of us are made in the image of our Creator. And because of that, every single person has an estimable dignity and value. And by the way, your value is not related in any way to the color of your skin or what zip code you grew up in or how good looking you are, what your talents are, even what your degree is. Your value is inherent because it's given to you by your Creator. My friends, the previous generations of Americans understood these things clearly. They understood that there is a moral order to the universe, that there is a natural law of our Creator that governs, and that we are wise to comport ourselves to it. And the further that our nation and its leaders abandon the foundational truths, the greater peril we are all going to be in. So I'm going to wrap this up and say, what is the admonition to you? Here you are. You've got a degree, you've got a charge to go forth, and as you do, I just hope that you'll remember a couple of key things. First, what is popular isn't always right, and what is right isn't always popular. Number two, real truth exists, and it is timeless and unchanging, and it is given to us by our Creator. And no matter how lost the culture becomes and how dark the skies, you can let your light shine right through all that darkness, and you can help to prove that virtue and love and bravery and integrity and charity are still possible. Know the truth and keep the truth, and it will help all of us to stay free. Thank you, congratulations, and go forth. We're very proud of you. God bless.